Okay, to help you with your homework tonight, I'd like to go over solving problem 18-5A. It's the more difficult of the two, and I think this should give you some help. So the first part of it, it gives us information about beginning and ending inventories for the three different categories of inventory we have. And think about those three buildings that I drew in the last lecture there. So we've got our raw materials here, starting and ending. It looks like it went down. We've got work in process. That's what's going on that isn't completed yet at the beginning of the month and at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. And then we have finished goods. That's what's required for products that we give to customers directly. So these two first items here are going to be on our cost of goods manufactured. That describes what happened in our factory. The finished good line, that's going to be on our income statement when we solve for cost of goods sold. They also gave us some information here about different types of expenses and indirect labor. In this case here, we need to identify items that are manufacturing related. So I've got depreciation expense for factory equipment. That's going to be factory overhead, so I'll put FOH by it. Direct labor is direct labor. That's going to be on our statement of cost of goods manufactured. Heat, light, and power for the factory is also factory overhead. Indirect labor, like supervisors and stuff, that's factory overhead. Materials purchased is going to be on our direct material portion. Office salary expense, when I skipped over advertising and depreciation on office equipment because that's going to be on our overhead on our income statement, selling and administrative expenses, as will office salaries. Property taxes on the factory will be on factory overhead. Property taxes on the office building will be selling and administrative. Rent expense on the factory is going to be factory overhead. Sales, of course, is sales. Sales salary expense will be selling and administrative. Supplies for the factory will be factory overhead. And miscellaneous costs for the factory will be factory overhead. So I need to kind of identify those items before I can get started. So now let's take a look to begin with at the statement of cost of goods manufactured. That's the first one we'll do. And you're going to see a recurring pattern here on these. So for this statement, again, is going to summarize what happened in our factory during the year in this case. So I start out with work in process on January 1st, 63,900. That came from that first page on the from the textbook there. So 63.9, that's what was on workbenches partially completed when we started. I need to add to that the three different types of costs that flowed into our category, into our factory: direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead. So for the first of those three, I need to determine how much material left my raw material warehouse and went into my factory. Some problems will just give you that, but in this case we have to figure it out. So to figure that out, I need to do a little subroutine here, basically, which I start with my material inventory at the beginning of the year. I add the purchases that I made. That gives me the materials that are available for use. So if I didn't do any production, didn't require any materials, that would have been my ending inventory. But my ending inventory was of raw materials was 31,700. I can do the math there and determine that that must mean that the difference between these two figures, or 569,150, must have left that building and gone into my factory. Okay? Then I've got direct labor. So this is my first type of cost that flowed into the factory, direct materials. Now I've got direct labor. And then I've got the third cost, factory overhead. So I'll list those out. Notice they're in descending order with miscellaneous last, which is the case with all financial statements. So we list them in descending order. And these are all the ones that I wrote FOH next to on the textbook there. So I sum that up. I had manufacturing overhead of 336,200. So I've got what I started with on workbenches. It was partially finished. Then I added these costs to it. That gives me total manufacturing cost incurred during the period of $2,005,350. I add that to my beginning work in process. I had total cost of $2,069,250. If nothing left my factory and went to finished goods, this would be my ending inventory. Okay. But I take a look at my ending work in process, how much is on workbenches partially completed at the end of the year. That was 80,000. So the difference must have been the cost that flowed out of my factory into my finished goods warehouse, 1,989,250. So now that I have that, I can then move on and do my income statement. And I'm going to focus on just the cost of goods sold section of the income statement here, because you guys know how to do the rest. So for cost of goods sold, I'm going to have that similar kind of routine, that same kind of pattern, where I start with my beginning finished goods inventory, beginning of the year, 101,200, and the building that has all of the stuff that customers can take whenever they want, that's how much I had in that building at the beginning. 1,989,250 flowed out of my factory into my finished goods warehouse. We just got that from the previous statement. So that meant the finished goods available to be sold were 2,090,450. So again, if we didn't sell anything at all to our customers during that month, if we just added material to that finished goods warehouse and nothing ever left it, that would be my ending inventory. Well, I count my ending inventory at the end of the year. It was 99,800. That must mean that the difference of 1,990,650 flowed out of my finished goods warehouse into the trucks of customers. And of course, sales minus cost of goods sold is equal to gross profit. So I've got my gross profit of 1,859,350. And I've heard from a couple of students on the overhead section here that you got tripped up. I think 3 of you I've heard from, by not including these subtotals. So that's important. It's important to segregate administrative from selling so we get some additional information about the cost structure for the company. But in addition to having that detail, I also want a subtotal so I can quickly see what total administrative expenses were and what total selling expenses were. And then I get a bottom line of 886,350. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, please email me or give me a call. Bye-bye.